It was a very modest ranch. I think it was a 3-bedroom. It was around, 200,000, I think. Just nice neighborhood, very modest. And we were going through the home and looking through the rooms. And then we got to the garage and we opened the garage and there was a in there.
My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is The Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Welcome back. My name is Kevin C. McIntosh, and joining us on this episode of The Closing Table, we have a very special guest ready to share her knowledge on real estate in her market. We want to welcome Erica Tolin to the show. How are you, Erica?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Erica. We appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule and pulling up a chair to the closing table. We appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to talk about real estate in your market, Pittsburgh, which I'm a little bit familiar with as I had a few guests on, but I also want to know from your perspective. But before we dig into that, I like to talk about the person, the individual first. So if you can, Erica, in 60 seconds or less, tell us who you are outside of real estate.
Sure. So the most important thing about me is that I'm a mom, as I had just, told you before. I have 2 children, 13 and 10, 2 daughters. So that's they take up the majority of my time while I'm not working. And I also have a theater background. So I teach. I teach part-time at Point Park University. And then my brokerage is Coldwell Banker Realty. So that keeps me busy. When I have time, I try to pursue some hobbies. I really like to read and watch movies, but I'm a busy gal.
Nice. Yeah. Staying busy keeps you out of trouble and keeps
That's
you moving
true.
forward.
That is true. Yes.
Yep. I can definitely agree with that. Well said. Let's talk about your business now. Erica,
Sure.
I want you to just describe your real estate business for us. And if you are able to, hit on a few different key marks. How long you've been licensed, what you would consider your specialty or niche, and or any notable achievements.
All right, let's see. Well, I've been licensed since the end of 2019. So that was right before COVID. So that was exciting. That was, when we moved into COVID, that was a big shift and there was a lot of paperwork. I can only speak to, our market and our multi-list in Pittsburgh, but we had lots of forms to fill out and it was very difficult to show homes. So there was a big switch to digital, kind of a big learning curve there. And then in 2020, once some of those pulled back in the summer, some of those restrictions and things fell back into more of a normal pattern, that's when I sort of started to find my footing. So I kind of came in at an interesting time, and then I got very busy. I got very busy very quickly. My specialty is residential real estate, so that's where my heart and soul is. I love helping people to find their homes. Even if it's not their dream home, a starter home can be very important. It's great to get your foot in the door, start building that equity. So that's my specialty is residential sales. If I want to drill down a little bit more, it's really first-time home buyers. I work with a lot of first-time home buyers and a lot of single home buyers. I'm especially passionate about single women being able to buy homes. So I really want to help people to get their foot in the door. So that's my passion is helping people to make that first purchase so they can start building equity.
Interesting. I love that you do have a special place for single women or just single people, but more specifically single women who may be looking to purchase. As someone who was raised by a single mom who did go through the process of purchasing a home, I completely understand the help that is needed there, the guidance that is needed there in those type of situations, the support also. So it's great to hear that you do things like that. So Pittsburgh, I heard you say that a
Yeah.
few times. So Pittsburgh is our market. Let's dig into it a little bit
Yes.
more. I want you to describe your market for us from your perspective, and this is a two-part question. Describe it
Okay.
geographically. Give as much detail for people who has never been to Pittsburgh. Talk about what it's known for, things to do, notable attractions. Then get into some of the economics. You have any statistics, data, average price points, time on the market, etc., that you can share with us?
Well, I love Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh is just the most fabulous place. I moved here when I was 6, so I can say I'm pretty much a lifelong Pittsburgher.
Hmm.
Geographically, probably people may know the three rivers. We have the Allegheny, the Monongahela, and they come together to form the Ohio. And so we have, the epicenter of Pittsburgh is really that downtown area and that point where those three rivers come together. Of course, everyone knows the Steelers. We have the Steelers
Yes.
and the Penguins and the Pirates. We're a
Hmm.
big
Hmm.
sports town.
Hmm.
So, of course, we have that. And we also have culturally, there's so much going on. We have great museums. We have the Andy Warhol Museum, which I believe is the largest museum, at least in the United States, dedicated to one artist, I believe. Um, we have the
Mm.
Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. We have Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera. We have wonderful cultural venues as well as the sports and great museums. It's a great place for education. So I just love Pittsburgh. I don't have enough good things to say about Pittsburgh. And in terms of the
Right.
market, I did pull up some specific data. And so what I did here was I just focused on Pittsburgh, the school district of Pittsburgh, which kind of encompasses a wide swath of many different neighborhoods and areas, but all, if I'm looking at just the school district of Pittsburgh, um, the average sales right now in the past few months are the average sale is about 342,000. So that's
Mm.
still, sort of below the national average, and the average median sale is 227.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
and days on market, 40 days on market. So that's actually,
Mm.
yeah, since last year, that's actually down 14% since last year.
Yep.
So that's kind of interesting. But as just looking at all of my data that I've pulled, I have all these little notes. I'm a big believer in taking notes and writing
Oh
stuff down.
yeah.
So I have all these little notes in front of me. But just generally speaking, we are seeing more inventory and we are seeing more days on market. But
Hmm.
the average sales price has gone up slightly, kind of across the board, and also kind of through several different neighborhoods and throughout Pittsburgh in general. The average a sale price to list price is about, I'm going to look at my three numbers and say it's hovering around 97%. So that's the
Mm.
average, the average sales price is about 97% of list price. So that's, those are the numbers as I'm seeing them. Um,
Hmm.
so we are starting to see a turn in inventory where there is a little bit more inventory available, which is
Right.
exciting. It's exciting for,
Right.
for home buyers and also for sellers, because the more inventory that is out there, the more people will want to go out and buy. So you'll
Correct.
have more buyers as well.
You spoke on and thank you for that information, by the way. It put a few things in
Yeah.
perspective for me. From the few agents that I've spoken with in that Pittsburgh area, I've heard that the sale or list price or whatever really hasn't fluctuated as much over the past couple years
Hmm.
as opposed to other markets. It's been pretty consistent and flat. So I want to ask a couple questions regarding that. Now, while the price may not have fluctuated as much, we do see what has been affected, which is the average days on the market. And it was
Hmm.
something else that you said too that stood out to me. So with that being said, why do you feel like the Pittsburgh market isn't being affected, like the prices aren't being affected by the overall market as much as other cities?
Well, we're Pittsburgh traditionally has had more older people, but of course now we have a big influx of tech, which is really exciting. So we have some
Right,
younger
right.
people coming into the community, but as people are right sizing or downsizing, um, I just think that Pittsburgh is one of those places where they say we're always kind of like 10 years behind, and I think partially that's true. We're not, you know, I love Pittsburgh, but we're not the height of fashion,
Right, right,
probably like
right.
fashion trends are not going to start here in Pittsburgh. It's a little bit, the mindset's a little bit different. It's a little bit more, we're a little bit more pragmatic. I think,
Mm,
it's a little bit more of, what's going to work, what's going to work in the long term. Um, you know, that's, the only thing I can really think. We're not like a San Diego or Seattle where there's been a huge boom and a
right,
huge influx. And
right.
for a while, years ago, I mean, I'm going to say maybe, and I'm just guessing here, like 10, 15 years ago. And certainly when I was growing up when I was a child, lots of people left. You grew up in Pittsburgh and then you left. Now people are
Mm-hmm.
staying. Now we have tech bringing people in. So I think that that's transitioning. So my feeling is that that's going to change. It's already kind of
Yeah,
changed a little bit. I think that there will be an acceleration in sales prices and list prices in the next several, I'm going to say in the next decade, like several years to a decade.
I can see that. I can see that, especially with me hearing that a lot of the surrounding towns around Pittsburgh are starting to develop a little bit more also. Like
Hmm.
you said, I think I've heard from someone who says, yeah, you would usually grow up in Pittsburgh and move out, but I'm hearing some people are moving or growing up in Pittsburgh and they're either staying in Pittsburgh or they're moving to those surrounding towns right outside of it, which
Hmm.
then, in turn builds up the demand, builds up the prices, and so on and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
Would you agree pretty much the same?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also think that people are discovering pockets of Pittsburgh that they didn't know
Yep,
existed.
yep,
It's
yep.
kind of like we have like there's the north side and the south side, and like ne'er the twain shall meet. But now I think people are starting to investigate a little. I mean, you'll hear people in the north side who've said, I've never been south. People in the
Hmm.
south were like, I'd never go north.
Hmm.
But the more people move here and they start finding different neighborhoods, my little neighborhood of Pittsburgh where I live, I think it's right on the trolley line, and people who've lived here their entire lives have never heard of it. And
Yeah,
so the more that those get discovered, the more these little pockets get discovered, I think that we'll see more real estate moving, and I think that property values will increase.
interesting, interesting. I want you to share a story on maybe, let's say, the most untraditional way that you've gotten a client. Maybe you weren't actively recruiting for clients or leads, but then somehow you ended up somewhere and someone showed interest and they end up becoming a client which you bought or sold a home for. Any situations like that?
Yeah, yeah. On Bumble. I got a client on Bumble. So
Okay.
that's, yeah.
Please share.
Well, I was a few years ago. This was right around the time of the pandemic, and I had some
Hmm.
some friends who were like, "We're doing all these things. We're doing websites." I was like, "Okay, I'll try it. I'll bite. I'm going to dip my toe in the dating world, kind of see what happens." It's like this is becoming a whole other podcast, Kevin. So. um, so yeah, I got on there and I started, talking to a few people, and once they found out I was a realtor, everyone was like, "Oh, I'm buying a house. I'm buying a house." And I was like, "Okay."
Really?
But there was one, gentleman that I spoke to, and we really hit it off, and we started dating. And then he actually ended up, he did buy a house.
Mm.
And we're still together. So,
Whoa, all
so
right.
it all worked out. So I get to go and see the house that I helped him buy.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. And then this is what I want to say on top of that. The fact that I I forgot. I just lost my train of thought very, very quickly. But the funny thing is, you say basically having being a real estate agent in your profile, whatever, kind of sparked
Yeah.
a lot of interest from different people. So I feel
Yeah.
like, even if you aren't an agent, if you're looking to date, put real estate agent in your profile. Maybe you'll get a lot of people that'll
You
reach out.
might.
That's the one thing that I took from that. That's so funny.
Yeah, it was really
That's so
funny.
funny.
And it was interesting because, I wonder how many of them like were not actually interested in me, but really wanted, kind of the
I
lowdown
know,
on the
right?
real estate market. I don't know, but it was
Like, there's
it was
a time
kind of
and
funny.
place for that, people. Please.
Yeah, right.
I'm
Yeah,
trying
this
to
isn't
date right
yeah,
now.
this isn't LinkedIn.
Unprofessional. I'm just joking. I'm joking. That's hilarious. But I love that, though. I love that because, you just never know where
Never
you will
know.
find somebody who could
Yeah.
end up being a client of yours. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I
Oh,
love
yeah.
I love that because I haven't heard that one yet. Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah. And the other place, really quite a few clients on Facebook or Instagram. I
Yeah, I would
would,
imagine.
and any agent who doesn't have some kind of Facebook presence or Instagram presence, those are the only two I really focus on. I don't have the energy for TikTok. But
Yeah.
that's a little too much for me. I know a lot of people are very successful with doing that, but um, I, I like to just relationships are very important to me. So
Correct. Correct.
Facebook's a place where I can be friends with a few, 100 people and have a few hundred people follow me. And I could ostensibly actually get to know them and have relationships with them rather than, I'm not looking to be like a TikTok celebrity or,
Yeah.
I don't need tons of people to follow me. I'm looking to build relationships and to help people with their real estate goals or just, give them advice. People will call all the time and just say, hey, my inspector said this. What do you think? Even if I'm not working with them, and I'm always happy to help. So I think that social media is a really great way to let people know that you're in the business.
Yep. Great tool for communication and networking and meeting people. Absolutely agree with that. You shared some market insights that I want to talk about. This
Yeah.
was last year during the summer, May, July. It was for Brookline, Pennsylvania. $229,000 the average price, 30 days average on market, 1 month supply of inventory. This is last summer. Now, taking that information, how are market insights now compared to last summer? I mean, this summer that recently passed, I should say, compared to last summer. Talk about the different changes that happen in between those two different insights.
Sure. Brookline is a borough of Pittsburgh, so that would also be included in that Pittsburgh school district.
Okay.
So the average sales price has gone up a little bit. Now it's 232,000. Median list price is 197,000. And now actually the DOM days on market has gone down a little bit. It's down to 23 days on market, which is kind of interesting. And now there's 4.5 months supply. So still a seller's market.
Whoa.
Anything under 6 months is still a seller's market.
Correct.
It's still a seller's market, but there's definitely more inventory. So I'm not kidding when I say there is more inventory out there. There truly is, and that's kind of across the board. I'm seeing more inventory.
That is very, very interesting. I'm almost at a point where I feel like maybe Pittsburgh is one of those markets that's kind of giving us an indication as to how the rest of the nation or country could perform in the future. I don't know, but I would imagine there's some not even imagine, based off, some of the information I've got from guests, there are slight changes that are happening in these markets. Not even just compared to last year, but compared to the beginning of the year.
Yes.
But I could see it kind of slowly making that change. But go from 1 month supply of inventory to, would you say 4.5 months is crazy. It's still a seller's market, but it is inching closer to that midway point a little bit.
Yes, it's still definitely a seller's market. Also in Pittsburgh, we have a lot of older homes. So it's not, a newer market like, California or somewhere where, we have many homes that are from my own house was built in the 1900. In fact, probably before. That was just when it was recorded, they did the recording in 1900. So it may even be older. So that said, with these older homes or homes that maybe need a little loving, they need a hug, those are the homes that are sitting on the market. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So a new house comes on the market. It's shiny and new. The people have either flipped it or updated it, and it's staged and looks nice. Those homes are still selling very quickly. So even though it is a seller's market, those homes are still the ones that are going very quickly. So I would encourage people, especially in this market, to look, beyond, look at the bones. And even if a house needs some work, if it's not your dream kitchen, that's okay. You want to think about building equity for the future so that you're investing in yourself and in your future wealth, rather than just going for the shiny house that everyone wants. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. I mean, put yourself, especially if you're a first time home buyer, put yourself in a position where you can possibly enter in the market at a low price, but then, like you said, you can put in a little bit of that sweat equity to end up
Yes.
building some more equity in your investment. I
Yes.
100% agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. So I know Pittsburgh experiences a bunch of different weather conditions, just like we do here in the Midwest in Michigan. But can you talk about a time where a client waited through the season or waited through the market changes to either buy or sell their home? And can you talk about the difference that it possibly made?
Well, that happens fairly frequently in terms of in Pittsburgh because it's very, I want to say family. There are a lot of families. And again, that's changing with, single people and people who are in tech. But with families, the biggest factor really is the start of school. So more
Right,
than
right, right.
weather, it's really the start of school. Um, Rather than specifically weather or seasons, I have had clients who, at the start of the pandemic were looking and um, w- waited a long time to buy a home, and it was and their top price kept having to go up as the home prices
Mm,
increased. Um,
correct.
and I did have another client who had to, because of her she had a strange lease. There was, her lease, she was not allowed out of her lease during the winter months, I think, so she had to wait, and by then interest rates had increased, so again we had to change. um her budgetary restrictions were different, so we had to look at a different kind of budget. So those are some basic examples of how
Right.
waiting would, has kind of changed. Basically, here's my thesis: the longer you wait, um, the more you may be disappointed or have to
I was just going to
put
go
more
there.
money in. Yeah, so
Absolutely.
that's basically across the board. Is that the longer you wait, the more you will have to, the more money you'll have to spend,
Mm-hmm.
because property values generally increase. Yep, yep. The property appreciates, and what you
Mm-hmm.
appreciate appreciates. So if you have a home that you're
Yeah,
taking
like that.
care of, it will appreciate. So, so don't wait too long, and don't wait for the interest rates to
Yeah,
go back
yeah,
down.
yeah. You can only do yourself damage if you're trying to use time as leverage.
Yes.
Time is only going to make things go up, like you said. The price, the interest
Yeah.
rates could possibly go up, could go
Yeah.
down, but who knows?
You don't
Even if it
know.
goes down, it can make the prices of homes go up because buying power is a lot higher. So
That's exactly what happened. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
I think that's kind of the common knowledge now, is that if you, once the interest rates do go down, if they do, um, everyone is going to jump,
Correct.
and there will be so much more competition. So we have a saying: you marry the house and date the rate.
Date the
So
rate,
yep,
marry the
date the
house.
rate.
That's right.
Yep, sure you've heard that one. So
Yep.
yeah, so that's not
Good point.
specifically weather conditional, but
But
that gives you an idea of, my kind of thoughts on waiting.
yeah, yeah, it is still waiting on, different market trends and
Yeah.
things like that. Not the season per se, but yeah, still relevant. Interesting to bring that up. I want you to reflect back through your career and tell us a time that you feel like you had to face the biggest obstacle in your career, right? You were doing a transaction, you was like, I don't know how I'm getting through this. But then somehow you get through it. Whether the sale actually went through or it fell apart. Can you talk about how you overcame the biggest obstacle and what lessons you learned from that experience?
Yes. So I would say probably my biggest obstacle was a listing that I had. And this was back in, I want to say this must have been 2021, early 2021. And there was a house that came up for sale in a very desirable area, desirable market. But it was outdated. It needed some updates. It needed
Mhm.
a little bit of cosmetic help. Um, and we did get an offer. Um, and when they went to do their inspection, they looked in the sewer,
Uh-oh.
and I mean, you name an issue that could go wrong in a sewer, and it was going wrong. And in fact, at some point, they had redone a bathroom in the basement, and they had jetted the pipeline into the basement. But when the plumber did it, it had run like through the fresh air part of the sewer. It was, I mean, it was crazy. The agent who called, luckily the buyer's agent was just lovely, and someone who was in my office at the time, and he was great to work with. But he said, Erica, I've never seen anything like this. And I said, great, wonderful. Also, there were a lot of roots growing in the sewer. I mean, it was just like full of roots. I mean, beyond what could be like lined and hydrojetted. And then there was a crack in the line right before the main, which of course then is the homeowner's responsibility to take care of that. So we had to get all of that taken care of.
A croc. Are we talking crocodile or
no,
an actual croc?
I'm sorry. Did I say croc? I meant crack. There's a crack. A crack in the sewer. Yeah. No, there wasn't a croc. Although, my gosh, you never know. There might have been.
That wasn't a crocodile or a croc shoe?
In the sewer.
Okay.
That would be another story. Yes. No, there was a crack. So there was a significant crack in the sewer. So they had to finish all of that. And unfortunately, it was a very long sewer line. From the house to the main was very long. So we had to rip up the basement. And then they also had to dig up the street, which unfortunately, the street that they were on was a state-run street. So PennDOT, Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, had to get involved, and they had to have flaggers. I mean, it was just a huge deal. It was a huge ordeal. And so to make all of that happen, of course, the paperwork just got, we had so many, change in terms forms. There were just, because we had to, change the inspection time, change the inspection, deadline, and we did that, I think 4 times. And God bless those buyers. They hung in there, as they did the work. And, my seller, who of course was not happy about having to get that work done, but what can you do? You would have to, once you know that there are those kinds of issues, you have to disclose it. But this was, months and months into repairing the sewer and digging up the basements and getting all of that fixed. And the sale did go through, and luckily,
that is crazy.
Yes, but it was an ordeal. Sewer work can be a big sticking point. So especially again in Pittsburgh, we have these old sewers. We have a lot of terracotta sewers, and they can get crushed, or cast iron sewers that get scaled. And this is like the non-sexy part of real estate, but that is really super important, because you want the sewer to work. Yes, this is not drinking champagne in the penthouse. This is we're looking at the camera, wearing our boots, trying to figure out how we can fix this problem, because it's really important for the health of the house and the health of the people, and to make sure the sewer's working. But that was a time when I really, I really had to stick with it and pull it out for my seller, and for the buyers and the buyer's agent, and we all worked together, and it worked. So
yeah. Let me tell you, but I cannot believe that the buyers sat through for that entire experience. They must have really wanted that home.
They did. And they have gone through, and they did this. They had a vision for it. And they completely renovated everything, made it really just a really cool interior. I mean, they really had this vision for this house, and they're a young couple. They've got, lots of energy and creativity, and they just had this idea for this house, and they followed through with it. So, it just goes to show that when you take, the baby steps, and you just kind of tackle, real estate is nothing but it's like whack-a-mole. Problem pops up, you gotta whack it down. And it's like just one thing at a time, just until you whack all the moles down.
That's a good point. That's a good point too.
Yeah.
But like you said, to give you some credit on that, it takes 2 good agents to be involved also to help, provide that relief or a little bit of support for your clients while this entire process is going through. Because I'm just listening to it like this. I don't know. I probably would have quit at some point. It's just too much. But
Yeah.
when you want something that bad, you go for it, and then you have people that are on your team helping you make it a lot more smooth as possible. Like the credit goes
Yes.
to you and the other agent for sure.
Thank you. Yes, it really,
Sure.
and our working relationship, the other agents and I, working together was really helpful. And I can't say enough how much easier all transactions go when the two agents can work together.
Hmm.
We're in this together. We're representing our clients, but we also want the deal to hold together if it can. And
Yep.
that's our job, is to make it flow and make it work.
I see you also mentioned that usually the offer that comes first on the listing
Yep.
gets chosen because
Yep.
they are seen as the most serious buyer. This is a new concept for us. So can you talk about a time when your offer was first and get accepted amongst many other offers? And on the
Yeah.
contrary, can you also talk about when your offer was not first but still accepted amongst many?
Oh, sure. Uh, I can think of a time a few years ago. I was working with a client, and they've since I've worked with this family several times. In fact, they just sold a home that they owned, and I helped their son buy a home on his own. So I've worked with them a lot since. But it was a home right when real estate was starting to pick up and things were starting to go a little bit. Everything was a little bit more competitive, and it was just kind
Right.
of starting. There was this home for sale, this really cool home in Etna, which is um, it's part of Pittsburgh, but it's its own borough. And I think we were the first people in, because if we can be first, I like to be first in.
Hmm.
Um, and we went in and we saw this house, and they said, "Yeah, we like this. This is in our price range. This is great." And I said, "Great. Let's offer 10% more, and let's make an offer, and just not, just to make it easy for them. Let's make it let's I believe in making things easy for people, just
For sure.
so we got the offer in. We were the first offer. So clearly they could tell that my client really wanted the house, because we got the offer in quickly. And I, as a listing agent, also, when someone gets their offer in really quickly, I know that they're not sleeping on it. They're not hemming and hawing. They're the girl you want to take to the prom. You're going to take that girl to the prom. So we got our offer in, and it was accepted, and they canceled the rest of the showings.
Nice.
And
Wow.
perhaps that house might have gone, if they had let it go highest and best, and but then you have to wade through so many other offers, and you have to, figure things out. This was a cash offer too, so my buyer was a cash buyer. That made it easier. That greased
Ooh.
the
Oh
wheels a little
yeah.
bit. Yeah, so that's always
Yep.
helpful. But again,
Hmm.
getting the offer in quickly, offering a little bit more than asking, so that they know that we're serious. That is that's that's one example of this. I have several examples where we've gotten the house by being first. I just believe in being first, and get it in, get it done, and show you're serious.
Mm.
One time when we were not first was a highest and best situation. There was a house in another desirable area, a suburb of Pittsburgh, highly desirable area. Um, and this house was just a behemoth, just one of those beautiful old stone homes, lots of stuff left inside. Lots of stuff left inside that's important to the story. Um,
Okay.
and everyone wanted this house. The whole community was just losing their minds over this house. And
Mm.
so of course, they called for highest and best. And I had a client, it was another, luckily, cash buyer, and he stepped in with a really good offer. And I said, let's add, because he's like, we can get rid of all this. This is not a problem. We could get rid of this. The seller was having trouble. Just sometimes it's hard to get rid of your own belongings, and especially if it's a parent or family situation, it's just
Oh
hard
yeah.
to deal with the
Yeah.
stuff inside. So we added in there that we would take care of anything left in the house. That they were, of course, free to take whatever they wanted, but whatever was left, my client would take care of, and that won us the offer. Out of,
Mm.
I think there were 24 or 28 offers, and we won it.
Woo! Just because you said you would take care of everything in the house.
Yes, and of course
Oh,
the
cash
price was
buy
right as
also.
well. Cash
Yeah.
buyer, but there were several cash buyers, and there were a lot of people offering in the neighborhood of what we were offering. So we made a really good, really great offer. and very good, but still in the neighborhood of I know what some of the other offers were, and offered to take care of what was inside. And I just make it a habit to really communicate with the agent as well, with the selling agent, so that they know that I'm busy, or that I'm,
Key point.
that I'm active, my clients are interested, that,
Yeah.
we're interested in what's going on in the house. So I try to communicate as well. I'd rather over
Good point.
communicate than under communicate.
Every time, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure, makes sense. There's no miscommunication there in most cases.
Right.
So love that. In your experience, all the homes you've been to, pretty sure you've seen some crazy different things.
Oh
What's
yeah.
the weirdest thing that you've seen at a property thus far?
Okay. Well, there was one time I was showing a house, and it was a very modest it was a very modest ranch. I think it was a 3-bedroom. It was around, 200,000, I think, and a very in a very, just nice neighborhood, um but very modest. And we were going through the home and looking through the rooms, and then we got to the garage, and we opened the garage, and there was a Lamborghini in there. In the garage.
Oh,
I couldn't believe it. And I'm not a car person. I don't know if this was like a, special Lamborghini or whatever, but I couldn't believe it that there was a Lamborghini in the house. Um,
oh,
Unbelievable. But yeah, I've seen,
wow.
I've seen a lot of things, and a lot of different homes. Lots of one client I was with, and we were going through, it was another house where it was an estate situation, and the woman had left all of these dolls, just so many dolls, and toys, and antique furniture, all this beautiful furniture from the 30s. So it's
Hmm.
always interesting to see what people have inside their homes. Always very
Nice.
interesting.
That Lamborghini though, that would have took me for. I would like want to touch it or something. Like, let me at least just touch it. Put my hand
I
on it for a
almost fell
minute or
over. Yeah, I
something.
mean, it was the last thing I expected, literally the last thing I
I know.
expected to see in that garage. I couldn't believe it.
I know
It
that,
was so
especially
funny.
depending on the setting. You looking like, why is a Lamborghini here? Like
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, it was, yeah,
It's-
exactly. It wasn't a $3 million house or something. It was just a little
that's what I'm
modest ranch with
saying.
a
Like,
Lamborghini in the garage. It was so funny. But that was
interesting
definitely,
story.
that stands out as definitely an unusual find. Yeah.
Yeah, one for the books right there.
Yeah.
South Hills. I heard a lot about South Hills and not Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh specifically being
Yeah.
a great place for schools, medical institutions, things like that. But South Hills specifically is renowned for its educational institutions. So, how does proximity to schools, colleges, and universities affect property values, and how do you help clients leverage this advantage to address potential concerns?
Hmm.
Or address potential
Concerns.
concerns.
Yeah,
Excuse
yeah.
me.
I don't know. I wouldn't say concerns, but certainly we do have a lot of wonderful schools in the South Hills area, and so
Mm-hmm.
those neighborhoods are. I have noticed that there has been an increase in property values, and of course increase in competition for those homes near the school districts that are most favorable. So again, Pittsburgh being sort of more of a family town than a party town, um, those homes that do offer good public schools are always sought after. School district is one of the key items that will add value to your home. So you know that if it's in a good school district, that it will hold its value. And in terms
Mm-hmm.
of regionally with colleges and universities, um, that's probably more of a draw for investors. Certainly, there are the educators who live in the area, and of course all of the faculty, staff, etc., who then will want to live in the area, and want to be as close to those universities as possible. But also there is a healthy rental market then around, particularly I'm thinking University of Pittsburgh,
Mm-hmm.
Oakland. There are a lot of rentals in that area, so that's a good place to start if you are thinking of investing. I would say look to the universities and where the universities are, because you will have built-in renters from
Yeah.
people at the schools. There will be a lot of turnover, but it's still a good way to get your foot in the door as an investor.
No, yeah, that definitely comes with, the having rental properties for college students and
Yeah.
people, and that type of situation. But nonetheless, great schools in that Pittsburgh area, from what I've heard
Yes.
consistently from different agents, and I imagine that would be a main reason why there's so much value in certain neighborhoods and certain properties, being in that area. So
Yes, absolutely.
it's nice to hear that. Especially about the medical situation, the medical field being popular there, and the
Hmm.
hospitals being popular there. I didn't know Pittsburgh to be too, known for that, but getting more light on that and the schools, it just shows the value that Pittsburgh has overall. That's just to me somebody who's an outsider looking in. I guess I will say,
Yeah.
nonetheless.
Yeah,
I,
absolutely. We do have a great, cutting edge hospitals and
mm-hmm.
medical care, and we have wonderful facilities. So it's really, again, I just love Pittsburgh. So if you're thinking of moving to Pittsburgh,
Beautiful.
move to Pittsburgh. Call me, I'll help you out. But it's a great town. Yeah.
Yeah. With that being said, this is a nice opportunity for you to pitch. Audience watching this right now may be curious, saying, Erica, yeah, you're very knowledgeable about Pittsburgh. You probably own 1,000 homes being a real estate agent. But what about us? We want to learn, how should we own our first home in Pittsburgh in today's market with today's conditions? What advice would you give them?
I am so glad that you asked, because I want everyone who wants to own a home to be able to do that. And I think that people imagine that there are um, a lot of impediments to that, but really
Mm-hmm.
there aren't. So the first thing I would say is just get your credit score up, because that's important. Because that's, of course, if you need money, if you need to have a mortgage, and most people do, that's going to be really important. You can start the process by the first thing I would do is find a great realtor who could hook you up with a great lender, with a good mortgage originator. They will take a look at your finances and say, this is what you can afford or what you can't afford. Or, someone who's really great will say, hey, you can't get a loan right now. Here's what you can do in order to get a loan in the next few years. There are great first time home buyer programs. Most lenders will have something like that at Coldwell Banker at GRA, where I am. I know that we have really terrific first-time homebuyer programs where you don't have to put down a lot. There's also
Mm-hmm.
FHA loans, which I won't get into too much. There's some restrictions on those, but where you don't have to put down as much, and you can get a lower um, a lower APR. So that's where I would start with a realtor, even if you're not going to buy right now. Here's a secret about realtors. We love to talk to people, and we love to help people.
Right.
So, even if you just want help in the right direction, or just call me, even if you're not going to use me as your realtor, just let me talk to me, and I can help you just to get your foot on the path. So that's where I would say to start. If you find you're in a situation where a lender then says, you can't really buy this home right now, or you would need to put so much down that you don't have, I would consider doing something called house hacking, which
Ooh.
is, about house hacking. Yeah.
Yes, I
So
do.
yeah, so where you can do something like buy a duplex, you live in one half, rent out the other, or sometimes you can get a home with a separate entrance and rent that out.
Mm-hmm.
You could also do an Airbnb situation, but I'm thinking more of a traditional rental here.
Right. Right.
You could get, even a triplex or fourplex, or again, just rent out a room in your house so that you have some of that mortgage covered.
Correct.
And you're still building equity. You're still going
Mm.
to be building equity, because no matter where you are, whether you're, unless someone has given you a home, or you can buy a home cash outright, it's going to be a little bit of a liability.
Yes.
There's that saying, it's your home isn't an asset, it's a liability. Well, it's both.
Ooh.
It's actually both. But if you're renting, it's definitely a liability. which is not to say that renting, it doesn't have its place. Owning a home is not for everyone, especially if you think you may move soon, or you just can't afford the down payment, or it intimidates you to think about doing home projects. That's fine. But if you want to own your own home, there is a path to do it. And I would also add, as I said before earlier in the show, look at the homes that have good bones. Don't
Mm,
let yourself just see, the the TV sparkling HGTV renovated, perfect
yeah.
homes, are the ones that have been staged. Look at the ones that have good bones, that have, the grandma kitchen or carpet everywhere. That can be fixed. You can fix all of those things, and you can make
Hmm.
it what you want. So please
Hmm.
consider those. There are a wealth of homes that are just waiting to be purchased. I see them all the time that
Oh,
would be perfect for
yes.
a first-time home buyer. That people will look at and say, well, it does not have to be your dream home. Your first home does not have to be your dream home. That's what I would say.
It doesn't have to be your forever home. It's just a
No,
start. That shag carpet comes right up. That
it
nasty
does.
wallpaper comes right down. You can make all those
Exactly.
changes. Hmm.
Yes, exactly. You can make those changes over time, or, but again, you're building equity. So
Correct.
you can then take that in a few years, and especially if you do try something like home hacking, rent out a room in your home, etc., then that will help you to defer some of those costs. Then you can take that money out, and in 5 or 10 years, you might be able to buy,
Hmm.
a home that's closer to your dream home or your dream home.
Hmm.
But don't let that
Yep.
stop you.
Yep. We here at the closing table are very big advocates for the house hacking process. So
Ah,
once
good.
you said that, that was the key word of the day right there.
Oh,
Appreciate
great,
that.
wonderful.
Well, thank you so much, Erica, for pulling up a chair
Thank
to the closing
you.
table and sharing your knowledge. We appreciate it. At this point, if you have any last words and or want to tell people how to reach out to you, the floor is yours.
Oh, wonderful. Well, you can find me at ericatolinrealtor.com. I'm with Coldwell Banker Realty in the South Hills of Pittsburgh, but I work, throughout the Pittsburgh area. Um, and you can always text me 412-657-8729 if you have questions, or if you're interested in looking for a home or selling your home. I'm happy to talk to you. There's no obligation for that.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Erica. We appreciate that. And for our YouTube audience watching right now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, do us both a favor, hit the like button, please, and thank you. Make sure you also share the content and subscribe to our channel. And if you are listening on Apple, Spotify, or any other podcast platforms, please do the same. Give us a like, a 5-star rating, and subscribe for our latest content. Hey, Erica, I want to leave our audience with a question before they leave the chat, because I like to get their brains going. So this is for you, audience. Are there any homes for sale in your neighborhood right now? If so, how long have they been on the market? And why do you think they haven't sold yet? Don't tell us now. Leave it in the comments below. Besides that, we'll talk to you next time.